Good week, good evening, and welcome to this week's meeting of the Norton Board of Selectmen. Today is Thursday, February 7th, 2019. Let the record show that all members are present, along with Town Manager Michael Units. Pledge of allegiance, please. Sorry, just hit your foot. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is, we have any announcements? Mr. Salo, you got anything? I don't think so, anything.
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Bramwell?
No, don't have anything.
Mrs. Steele?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Flaherty?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Under appointments and resignations and retirements, we have an appointment for a full-time dispatcher. Mr. Units?
We have a recommendation to hire Susie Pina. She's currently working on a per diem basis for the town of Norfolk, doing dispatch. She has her emergency medical dispatch certification and her APCO mass certification. Also fluent in Portuguese that could help out at some points. And we're very glad to, it's been a while since we've been able to fill the vacancy, and she'll be a great addition to the department, and probably on the midnight shift. A low person on the totem pole, but she'll do a great job.
Does this have any impact on a new regional dispatch?
No, she is aware of that. When we were interviewing her, the chiefs and myself, we did make her aware that a year from July, we would be moving, there'd be, Norton would be part of the 4-town regional dispatch, and there's no guarantee that she would have a job there, so she understands
But
that.
you can apply for it, right?
She can apply,
Okay,
yeah.
very good. Mr. Salvo, you want to read that, please?
Sure. This time, I'd like to put a notice to the Board of Selectmen from Michael D. Unis, Town Manager, dated February 4th, 2019. Notice of appointment of a full-time dispatcher in the Communications Department. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, that acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as a full-time dispatcher in the Communications Department. Susie Pina. The appointment was made on February 4th, 2019, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter, and will be effective February 19, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to said date. I specifically request the Board to accept this appointment with the effective date of February 10th, 2019.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, so. Chair, entertain a motion to appoint Susie Pina to the position of full-time dispatcher, effective as of February 10th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we, moving forward, can we have the candidates come in? Or,
Yeah.
actually, not candidates, they're now employees, I guess. Can we just have them so we can meet them the night that we're,
Yeah, in the past, we've always asked the people that were appointed to come in, so we need
So
to
we have
know
an
who,
idea.
yeah, just to know who they are.
yeah.
I mean, if you're walking down the street and you pass these folks, you want to know who they are and what they're doing for the town.
Yep,
so.
I'll check with her. She actually was working in Norfolk tonight, so.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a vote to appoint Carol Zwicker as an alternate for the Recreation Commission. We have a list of people who are presently, there's seven members that are full-time, and there's 2 alternates, and the 7 positions right now on the full membership is filled. So there's only 2 alternate positions. And Carol would like to have one of those. I would suggest that in the future, we may want to put her on as a full-time member of the commission. Once a position opens up, we should try to do that, so. But for tonight, she's asking to be appointed to the alternate position, so. Anyone have any questions? She's been pretty much doing the job anyway for years, so it'd be great to have her on there. Chair entertain a motion to appoint Carol Zwicker as an alternate to the Recreation Commission.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, others in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the discussion on a LIP 40B proposal by AR Building Company on Mansfield Avenue. Attorney Freeman, come on up.
Should I come to the podium over there?
Whichever makes you comfortable. I think they both work.
Okay, either way. Again, for the record, I'm Peter Freeman, attorney representing the hopeful applicant, AR Building Company. And first, let me just introduce the team. We have from AR Building, Dan Mankosh, the president, Jason Kambitsis, the vice president, then our team of professionals, Joe Penny and Brandon Carr from DePreti Engineering, and Jeff Campbell, the architect of the project. So after I just quickly tell you why we're here and what we hope for, I think then Jason will give a brief introduction of the company and a little bit about the project. And then I believe we have on the PowerPoint with Mr. Unitz's help, thank you. I think Jason, or rather Jeff, will go through that. So in a nutshell, the property's on Mansfield Ave. You'll see all the details, and you do have a package. And we had met briefly with Mr. Kimball and Mr. Unitz and the town planner, and we appreciate that opportunity. So our hope is to do a friendly 40B through a local initiative program project, which, as you know from past experience, LIP needs the support of the municipality. It is then, like any other 40B, we would get that approval first from you, and then we go to the HCD, the state agency, who would presumably approve it, and then we can apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that is what we hope for. We know that this is preliminary, but we're hoping that we would get some type of consensus of positive reaction, in which case we would fill out the detailed LIP application, which of course has a lot more information. So that is how we would proceed, including further meetings with town staff on the technical aspects and what have you. So that is why we're here. We hope, and of course we're happy to answer any questions as well, but hope that we would get your support, that you think this makes sense, help get you to the 10% or over it, and that it's a good project. It is a very experienced and good developer. So without further ado, let's get to the meat and potatoes, as they say. Jason.
Evening.
Good evening, everybody. Hello.
You want this, or you want me just to,
Oh, should I, is it?
whatever's easiest for
Okay,
you?
sure. I can do it. Thank you. Hello, my name is Jason Kambitsis with AR Building. Thanks, Pete, for introducing us. Just want to give you a brief background on who we are. First of all, thanks for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. AR Building is a 50-year-old company, started in 1968. We're a multifamily builder, developer, owner, so we build, buy, and manage all of our own stuff. We currently have over 9,000 units in 10 states. We're a vertically integrated company. We're owned by one guy, no partners or investors, so the difference between us and other companies that come along is we don't have to go out and find other people to work with us. We come, we make a decision to work on this project, a small group of us, and then we go forward with it. And hopefully tonight we get some sort of direction. You like what we're talking about, and we can move forward there. This just kind of gives you a little example of the product that we build. Normally we build 4-story luxury apartment communities, usually fully market rate communities. On the left here is Chatham Commons. It's a property located in Cranberry Township, north of Pittsburgh. On the right is Highland Hills Apartments. It's a development in Cumberland, Rhode Island. It's in the corporate park where CVS is headquartered. And then the bottom right shows, just an example of the interior shots looking out of the buildings, kind of what the insides of the buildings look like. To give you an understanding of what we've been doing, over the last 5 years, we came into New England starting to do new projects. We started with Highland Hills in Cumberland, Rhode Island. As you can see on the map there, 198 units. That'll be completed in the next 4 months. We have another one that we just started construction on called Dowling Village in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. It's 88 units, 4-story, one big building. Reynolds Farm in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, 225 units. We have our Northeast Construction Office in Westerly, Rhode Island. We have Pleasant Valley, 147 units in Groton, Connecticut. And we have 2 projects, actually another one that we just bought property in New London, Connecticut. The one's 60 Mansfield Road, it's 104 units. Another one's called Parcel J, 98 units in downtown New London. We're building another 88 units there. And then, of course, one that we're working on right now, Kettle Point in East Providence, Rhode Island. So we're busy. We're doing a lot of projects up here. The people building it are our guys. So we have a construction office here and in Pittsburgh. So again, as this moves forward, any questions, if we move forward tonight, we actually build the project, you call us, we're there. I mean, that's what we do with the other communities. You can call the other communities and talk with them about who we are and what we do. And, we are the kind of people that do what we say and say what we do. We stand by that. Give you another understanding of just some of these projects. On the left there is in Reynolds Farm. Again, it's typical kind of the quality of construction we do. We do a lot of brick. Since we own these buildings for portfolio, sold maybe 200 units over the 50 years of the company. So we keep them as legacy projects. So we maintain them ourselves, we keep them ourselves, and we want to make sure that in the next 50 years, they're going to stay in great condition. So we build them to the highest quality we can. Again, Reynolds Farm on the left, and examples of the other ones, Parcel J on the right, Kettle Point beneath that, and the interior of 60 Mansfield Road in New London, Connecticut. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Campbell, our architect, and kind of give you an understanding of the location of the site and what we're proposing to do here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Campbell?
Thank you. As Jason mentioned, my name is Jeff Campbell. I'm an architect. I've been working with AR Building for 15 years now. Our firm's been with them for a little over 20 years. We do all the new construction that you've seen within the architects for. As Jason mentioned, the AR Building does own, construct, and it develops, owns, and constructs everything they do. And as an architect, that's really been an enjoyable part of what we do, is because they are really interested in making sure they have quality materials, that these are things that they're really invested in. And from a development standpoint, they're getting great feedback constantly. So they're always making sure that they're adjusting the building. So to move to the actual site here, we are at 195 Mansfield Avenue, shown in red there, directly above the Great Woods, or directly to the north of the Great Woods Marketplace. So the parcel directly abuts the marketplace. There is one residential property directly to the north that was recently sold, and then a number of walk-up apartments a little bit further up the road. One of the things that we do is look at a number of site things, but the big thing here was really understanding the site topography. It is a relatively flat grade from Mansfield Avenue, and then as you get right at the reservoir, it does drop off a little precipitously. There is a mobile home community. It actually cuts off the site from the reservoir itself, so you'll see in the site plan in a moment here. And then you can just barely make out where the 104 is on the right here. There is a wetland that's just barely touching the site in the reservoir area. And then this is a proposal of what we would be proposing, something pretty comparable. This is a test fit plan, so we wanted to put this in front of the town really to kind of understand comments and understand if there's anything we needed to be focusing on as we move forward with this. But it is generally representative of what we would be proposing. As Jason mentioned, this would be, they specialize in four-story walk-ups, or four-story luxury buildings, so this would be an elevated building. We have elevators in all our buildings. We do, bedrooms have typically walk-in closets. We have laundries that are in each unit itself. I like to specialize in lots of big windows, so you get a lot of light in those units as well. And these have all been things that people have responded to very well. So this in particular would be a mix. We'd have 10% of the units would be 3 bedrooms, and then the rest of the mix would be a mix of studios, 1s and 2s, roughly evenly amongst those numbers. So we actually have some numbers up here. If we want to get level of detail, I'd be happy to get there. And then on the right here, we are budgeting with that wetland. We're budgeting some space just for a setback to make sure we're respecting that distance, and that we have a grading allowance as well. So with that, that's pretty much what we're proposing. I think, as Attorney Freeman said, we'd really kind of like to get thoughts on this and understand if there's any comments or feedback as we move forward. Thank you.
Questions? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, where that's located, there's sewer that runs parallel to that property?
Yep.
And there's enough sewer flow allowed for them to tie in?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, there's water and sewage in that area. And obviously, it looks to me like the egress to the property will hopefully be directly across the street from the entrance to, the Autobahn.
That's correct. So,
So
yeah,
you won't be staggered, it would be
it'd be, yeah, correct, right there. So that's, is the only place actually we could connect, since
Yeah.
it's right there.
just a clarity.
And we feel like this is going to get us to our 10%?
Yeah.
How far over?
Not much.
Yeah.
It'll get us just over.
Seems like it would be a little.
Here's the history. The history is we have a number of 40Bs that have been approved by this town, and some of us have been involved in it for many years. And we have some that are 12 years old. And it appears that some of them are starting to now fall off the list. So until we reach that 10%, we have to consider any new development that might come before us. We've got a couple that are in the works right now. I think
Island Brook. Island Brook.
is still under review. We had another whip years ago out on Newland Street. And that one. Yeah, Turtle Crossing. That one's pretty much, we haven't heard much about that. That was a whip, by the way. That was one that we did support, and that one seems to be failing also. So what I liked about their presentation was the fact that they do it all. If they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And where we need to be as a community is we have to get to that 10% so we can start giving our zoning board of appeals an opportunity to take a breath for a while and try to step back a bit. So, and that's the reason for some of this discussion.
Just to answer Mike's question, we need 82 units, and this would give us 101.
Okay, so we'd be 19 units over.
Any other questions?
No, just a comment.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I kind of like the design only because, first of all, it's abutting the commercial property. And so it's not really it's in residential, but it's not
Right.
totally, it's not going to stand out. And also the fact that it is long and narrow, and it goes away from the street, so it's, while I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful building, it doesn't overwhelm, the people who are passing by. The only person who might be overwhelmed is whoever owns the house to the north.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just that one private residence so far.
Yeah.
The, one question I brought up at our meeting, there are some incentives for us under the 40R. Did you have a chance to check on that? Because we do have, this is the only place in the town that we actually have public transportation that actually goes in front of it.
Yeah, that's a Cat 140 bus that
Yep.
goes from Norton to the Mansfield train station from East Carlton. I live not too far from there at 157.
Right. So the question would be, is that, I know under 40R, we would get some cash incentives back, and I don't know if that's still available.
It does still exist. I don't have a definite answer. DHCD, which handles that, still has the program. The way it works, of course, is first there has to be a town meeting vote to change the zoning to allow the project. It has to be, as of right, the only review would be, the building permit, obviously, can be site plan review, but it cannot be a special permit or anything like that. So, albeit it's definitely a good thing for the town because they don't guarantee it. That's why it's a fuzzy answer.
Okay.
It exists, but whether they'll have the money allocated depending on the particular budget time, et cetera. But yes, if it goes through with the approval of DHCD, there can be some real money for the town. From our viewpoint, just being, very above board, as I think we said at the meeting, they really want to get going very quickly, and it's problematic as to how long both the process with DHCD is longer, and then you still have to go to town meeting.
Okay.
So,
But when we do develop this, maybe we could have some kind of a turnoff for a bus stop. I'm not sure how you can design it, but in a way where if the bus has to stop or people that live there, maybe we could have it off the road a tad, just so they can get the connection there.
Yeah, I think one of the things, we'll really look at the entry. I think, to your point, there is only a small frontage here, and we do want to make sure the building looks as nice as possible. And so I think we'll focus a lot of energy on that entry design in general and how that entry comes in, and certainly try to be as sensitive to that as we can.
Yes, Mike?
So, based on what we have in front of us here, so, this is a 4-story building?
That's correct.
Okay. So we've got 2 3-bedroom units on either end of the building, which would bring us to a total of 8 as opposed to the 10. So, we are narrow on the So I just want to make sure all that
Right, so
numbers-
we have, so in the counts in the lower left, we have what the actual limits would be. And we've actually, I think if you have an earlier plan, we've actually looked at it and been tweaking it a little bit. So
Okay.
we decided to move that common area to the front. One of the things we will do is, as we go up in the building, we'll integrate 3-bedroom units that are above other units. So it's not like everything will stack.
Gotcha, okay, perfect, thank you.
Attorney Freeman, I believe we're required to have so many three-bedroom units.
Yes, basically, it is an interagency policy in Massachusetts initiated by DHCD in 2014 that does call for 10% for sure of the affordable units, and pretty much they encourage, unless they give some waiver, they encourage that the market units also have 10% three bedrooms. If there's absolutely no market for it, and the town believes that, and the developer, thinks that's, theoretically, you can ask DHCD for a waiver, but I think maybe in many, many projects, I've seen it happen once.
Okay. Another positive on this is, under the new guidelines of 40B, every one of these units do count toward affordable housing. If they were putting in houses, that just 25% of those would count, but in this particular case,
Great.
they all count, which is helpful for us to get there.
Just a question, where it's a fourth story, is there any plans, I know it's not in these plans, for elevators, or is it strictly
It's
stairs?
an
Absolutely,
elevator
yeah.
building, yeah.
Okay,
It would
They
absolutely.
mentioned they'd have elevators in it.
yeah, no, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I see the stairs, but I don't see any elevators.
Yeah, we would definitely.
Mr. Steele?
Mr. Chairman, this is kind of a busy area at certain times of day on Lot 140. Is there any consideration given to the increase in traffic due to the 88,
110.
101.
110 new units?
Yeah, I think that obviously the ZBA would have to do a traffic study, to do that, check that out. It's beyond the dangerous curve to a certain extent. It's beyond McDonald's, so it's not where that massive curve in front of the Roach Brothers is where most of our problems occur. But that would be part of the process. They'd have to go through
Yeah,
a
we go through
traffic study.
Well, we're definitely going to do a full traffic study.
Perfect.
I would just add to that, we find a lot of the time when we do these traffic studies that, you could say, well, it's 101 units, right? We find that we have no impact. And the reason that is people live differently now than they did before. And people don't leave at the same time and come home at the same time. And the traffic reports always kind of back that up in the sense that, you have 101 units, but people, they're just going at different times. People working from home, people are retired, or whatever it is. So it's just a little different than it's not like dropping 101 houses. I mean, it's a little different. But, regardless, we do the traffic study.
It would be required anyway. Yes, Peter?
Yes, plus in addition to the traffic that goes in and out of the Brooks Brothers Plaza, you have traffic that goes on the concert every summer, plus the golf traffic that occurs on Labor Day, and beginning in 2020 with the Northern Trust Championship Golf Tournament at the TPC in Boston and Norton. So it can be a busy, busy area on 148, and I live there, not too far from there.
Yeah, I think we had this conversation that there are times of the year where the traffic will be backed up on certain times, and it will have an impact on people getting in and out of there. There's no question about it. Any other question?
I'd like to suggest a sidewalk.
If you want to come on up, please, come on up. You'll have to come up, please, to the mic and identify yourself, please. I won't put you on the spot, but that's fine, yeah. You don't have to, you can just stand there.
Ellen McGrath, on Mansfield Ave, and I just recommend a sidewalk on that side. I really think it's necessary.
Yeah, it's something that actually we're working with the state right now. We're trying to get sidewalks in that area anyway, but we're in desperate, dire need of putting sidewalks of some sort in that area, and I don't think there's anything there right now.
Yeah,
is
just
there?
checking to see if.
Does it connect? Is there one?
There's nothing there, but even if it, at least a sidewalk from
Well,
your
for our people to
development
go
to
from here to
the plaza.
Yeah. Yeah, having the sidewalk from in front of McDonald's to your property would be an advantage, because obviously people will be using the market in that area, so it would make sense to have
For their safety.
some of that. Eventually, under new guidelines in Massachusetts, if they put in sidewalks and we do any widening, we have to do sidewalks on both sides of the street anyway. So whatever you do will just help us in the future.
Okay.
Make it better for us. Anybody, anyone else have any concerns?
No.
What's the board's pleasure? Anyone have any concerns?
Make a motion to support them to move forward with the project.
Do that. For consideration on the WIP. on the OIP.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Just consider it, yeah, I'll second that.
yeah. A motion and a second. You gentlemen have anything else?
Nope,
We're
that's
good. We
fine.
appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed, it's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you all
we'll-
very, very
Hearing
much.
back from you.
We'll start on the paperwork and work with your other departments. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
thank you.
Good luck.
And Jason, I found out that you're right, that you're based in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right?
Steelers.
Oh, no. I vote for reconsideration.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay, next we have a discussion on forming committee for the Community Preservation Act and the pros and cons of the Community Preservation Act. Mr. Units?
Just at your previous meeting, you were having a little discussion about the Community Preservation Act, and, it's probably a good idea to start now, possibly if it's a recommendation to come back not this town meeting, but next year's town meeting, because it would take some time to have discussion and input, and try and seek residents that would want to be on a committee to look at that.
Yeah, we've had some discussion about this in the past. This has gone to town meeting before, and the rules and regulations have changed over the years. It's not the same program that it was, 10, 15 years ago. So I think it's worth exploring. I'm not sure if it's right for the town. There's 175 communities now in the Commonwealth that have it, or have joined the program. So I think it's worth looking into. So as far as forming a committee goes, what are we looking for? Is there a basic template that we use? Is it 5 or 7? Or?
I would say you'd probably try and get 7, so you have a good cross-section of people.
Yeah, the more we can get, the better. We want different people's, first of all, geographically in the town, and different backgrounds and knowledge. So I'd shoot for 7, 9 would be great, but let's not get greedy.
Yeah, and you know what, if we get 9, we can move it to 9.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just part of the process, so. Anyone have any questions on this? Suggestion?
7 seems lofty to me with the number of vacancies that we have. Should we start with 5 to make sure that they can get a quorum? And then if we have 7, then great.
Come back and increase it.
Yeah,
We can always increase it, we can do that at any time, we don't have to have permission to do that, so.
We can't get a quorum at our IDC meeting.
Right.
Right now with 5.
Yeah, I think if we start with 5, we have some information we can pass out to them,
yeah.
to get them started, but I think overall, it's something we should be exploring again.
Agreed.
An
I just,
opportunity, what it does, it gives us funds in a trust that we're able to, through a committee, able to use to buy property for preservation. It gives us money to improve some of our facilities we presently have, like sports facilities and that type of stuff. There's a lot of good reasons to look into it, and I think it's probably something we should do. So what we'll do is we'll form a committee of 5 to start with, and if we get a good turnout, then we'll go for more, if that's the case. I'll entertain a motion to to create form a committee of the Community Preservation Act, and to, well, that's basically it. They can report back to us in a year or so. Give them some time to do it.
so moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
It's unanimous. Next on the agenda, we have discussion of town meeting warrant articles. Mr. Units?
You should have a list of the articles. You don't.
I got it. Okay.
So obviously, a lot of the articles that we have here are just standard articles that we have every year. The Chapter 90 transportation article, retirement, in a lot of places, these are could be placeholders. Retirement expense. The next one would be a new article. This would be to appropriate money for the demolition and removal of the Campbell House and the barn. Then there's two articles here, 5 and 6. This is just in case, the building committee's going to come to you February 21st. So I'm not sure where they are in the process and what they're going to recommend when they come here on the 21st. So one of these articles would be to have town meeting approve funds for the design, engineering, and construction of a senior center and town hall. And if they're not ready to move forward with that, the next article would just be to set aside funds for our engineers to continue with our environmental work that we're doing on the property on Elm Street. Article 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are just the standard articles. 12 is a standard article where we put aside $25,000 a year for our tree removal services. 13 is the standard renewal of the revolving funds. The next article, 14, East Main Street Water Main Improvement. That is an article from the Water and Sewer Department. As part of this Route 123 project, the contractor is going to connect the homes along the way to the existing new water main that's in the street that no one has been connected to, and that is at the expense of the Water and Sewer Department. So they're working on developing a number for that. The West Main Street Sewer Project, this is also a placeholder because they're in discussion with the state right now. They were looking to put the sewer line on one side of the street, and right now the state is insisting that it go down the middle of the road. So this is something they have to work out with the state. And if it does go down the middle of the road, then they're going to be required to pave curb to curb. So it would add to the cost of the project. So that's still ongoing. 16 is introduced by the planning department, looking to have the town do a master plan. We haven't had our master plan updated since the 80s, and that will be talked about later. 17 is to adopt the state stretch energy code, and the building inspector will come to your meeting on February 21st to talk to you about what the stretch code is and what it means. It's really just making buildings that are constructed in Norton have to meet an energy code that is stricter than the current energy code.
Is that the last step we have to take to become a green community also?
Yes.
That's part of it?
Yes.
We're almost there. We need one more step, and this will be the, where we'll be designated as a green community. Again, that opens up funds for other programs.
18 and 19 are both from the planning department, and what this is just to update some of their rules and regulations that right now change definitions and some other regulations that aren't in sync with state laws right now. And example would be when it comes to religious institutions and education institutions, I know are two things that they're not in sync with state law, so they just will be coming forward with something on that. Article 20 is from the planning board, and this came up during the process of the Blue Star development, where they have in their rules and regulations that the roadways going into and driveways going into the industrial parks would have to be 50 feet wide, and they have no ability to waive that. Like here off of Leonard Street, they're coming off a 40-foot wide street. Why would you need to have 50-foot wide driveways if you have vehicle traffic on a 40-foot street right out front, so they're looking to allow the planning board to be able, through the site plan process, to grant waivers in certain instances. Right now, they can't, so Blue Star is scheduled to be before the Zoning Board of Appeals on that. The next Article 21 is what was talked about at your previous meeting. This would just be the article to amend the zoning bylaws to allow digital electronic signboards in the industrial area along 495. And then the others are just typical placeholders, any bylaw amendments, any OPEB funding or stabilization fund.
You should note also that this town meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 15, 2019. We've moved it from May 13th to May 15th, so just want to remind everyone again that the first night of the town meeting will be on a Wednesday, May 15th. We have to, any additional business we have to get to, we'll come back the following Monday to deal with that. So, anyone have any questions? Mr. Steele?
Chairman, Mike, is the billboard company coming back before then? to-
We could have them back,
I
sure.
feel like they should. I don't know if they were really well prepared for the
Yeah.
town meeting last time they came, so if we're gonna go to.
Probably when you're gonna be ready to talk about it at one of
Yeah.
your meetings, we'll have them come back again.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And
Yeah, and there's some certain information that we requested when they did come
When
in.
they came last time,
Yeah,
yeah.
we need to get answers for too.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let's see, we have nothing under old business. Actually, okay. Under town manager's report, Mr. Yunus?
Sure. Before I give my report, I just want to report to the committee that earlier this week, I received a call from a resident that there were signs on the town common and the Pine Street Common. So I contacted the highway department and I told them there were signs on the town common and the Pine Street Common, and they asked me what they were. I told them there are signs that say something about save the bogs, and I told them there shouldn't be any signs on town property without town permission. And so the highway department went out, removed all the signs on the common and the Pine Street Common, and they also went out and took out signs on anything that were in the street layout. They were just doing their job. You know, I didn't talk to anybody before. I didn't talk to any of you. I just got notified of the signs on the town common, called the highway department, and, they went out and took the signs. They didn't destroy any signs. They saved all the signs. Normally, in a case where we have campaigns or political action committees that have signs out, they're registered with the town clerk, so we have a name we can call. We didn't have that in this case, so Keith held the signs until they were picked up. And when they were picked up, he just instructed they can go back out, but just don't put them in the street layout, have to be on private property. No ill intent, malice intended. Just went out and got signs off of town property. And sorry for any confusion that caused. There was no targeting or anything, and I'm told that later people were looking for signs that we hadn't taken that possibly were put on the Taunton side of Bay Street, and Taunton DPW took them. So more or less doing the same thing that we had done. So apologize for any confusion. We had no one to call, and all the signs were returned and put back out, set back from the street layout.
Now, when you refer to street layout, it's 10 feet off the edge of the pavement. Is that what they call street layout?
Well, usually roads are 40-foot layouts, and pavement may be 26 feet. So it leaves 14, so there's 7 on each side. If there's no sidewalk, there's room for a sidewalk and 2 feet usually.
And under a town sign bylaw, you know, what you did is actually specified in that town bylaw. That's the reason for the removal of the sign on the town common and the end of Pine Street, because that's town property, and they're not allowed to be put there, so. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Can I just add something to this? So, of course, there was no malice intended here, but it did end up causing quite a stir, which, you know, we can all understand why the people who had signs on what they thought was their private property were upset. So I would just like to make it kind of a policy moving forward that granted, you know, town property that is, you know, understandably town property, the common, you know, outside the town offices, fine. But if it's on somebody's lawn, I think we need to give it a little bit of a break. I mean, even as a selectman, I've had 4 races, and I didn't even know. I mean, I always put my sign the closest I can get to the road. So I feel like, you know, moving forward, we should just have some kind of unwritten policy that if there are any political signs out there, if they're on the lawn of a private residence, the town should just hands off.
Yeah, and I think some of the confusion, and I'll get to you in a second, the confusion is the fact that we do have a town bylaw, and when we take out our papers to run for office, there's a section there that specifies exactly what we can and cannot do, you know, as far as signs go. So it's part of it. So unfortunately, in this case, you know, that the signs are going up, but there's no bad intentions by anyone's part. It's just that we're notified of it as we do it. You want to come on up? You need to identify yourself, please.
Greg Shanahan, 142 Bay Road, and I'm the one that was responsible for majority of those signs. And I would like to say, to Mr. Eunice's point, that there was no targeting. This sign, this is a situation here, before and after. And you can see our sign was directly below a sign that is actually attached to town property. Our sign was taken, and the sign that's attached to town property still stands there today. There was a sign directly across the street from my yard. Two signs were taken off of my yard, which were more than 8 feet off the street. Okay, so there was nobody out there with a tape measure. I was in the DPW yard when the pickup truck came back with the signs. There were no signs in that truck but ours. And I asked the guys, why'd you come get our signs? They said we were ordered by Mr. Eunice to go get all the Bay Road signs off the town. All right? Yes, somebody put someone in the town common, should not have been there. Almost all the rest of them were in people's yards that requested them. And I feel that because we're opposing the solar panels is why they were targeted. And to say that they weren't targeted is untrue. And I think it's funny for Mr. Bramwell on the apartment complex to say it's unobtrusive to a residential neighborhood, and he appreciates that. Yet we're going to install an industrial-looking solar farm with 24,000 solar panels on a scenic road, historic road, in a residential neighborhood.
We'll take care of the signs, the other signs.
Well, I don't care to hurt the other people.
We have to, we're obligated by our bylaw.
That's been there, that sign's been there for 3 years.
Doesn't matter. We're obligated by our bylaw.
I understand
Nothing
that.
can be within that reach, so.
But that's not my intent.
Well, the intent, not ours either. But unfortunately, you brought it to our attention.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it. We'll have those signs removed.
But, you know,
I've seen signs myself nailed against telephone poles. You know, those have to come down, and the guys try to do it the best they can.
And I don't blame
The guys are getting
I don't blame the DPW guys one bit.
Let me finish. They're getting smarter. They're getting ladders and they're nailing them up higher.
Mhm.
It's tougher for us to get the damn signs.
I understand.
So we understand where you're coming from. I still don't think there was any ill intent here, and it's unfortunate. It's embarrassing to us, to be honest with you. But we're going to, you know, obviously make sure we enforce our bylaws, and that's one we have to enforce. And you know what? I've run from office many times, and I can't tell you how many times I put it within that 10-foot without even knowing it. I just did it, you know, and I did lose a few signs way back, you know.
In all respect, how can you say that there was no intent?
I'm not going to get into an argument over.
Oh, I'm not, no, I just want you to hear me. I listened to you.
Wait a minute, we've apologized, and there was, something happened that we had no control over. We've taken care of the problem, you've got your signs back, It's a bad situation, we understand that, and we're probably just as embarrassed about it as anyone else, but we're not gonna have a long debate about this. We understand something happened, we tried to fix it, the best of our ability, we can't take it back, which we could, we can't take it back, and that's the best we can offer.
Thank you.
Point. Thank you. In the future, I'll make sure I'm 10 feet off the side of the road when I put up a sign. I mean, I don't want you taking my signs.
I think the law is actually 20 feet from the center of the road.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I think our bylaw, though, is more specific, and I don't know. I haven't read it recently, but either way, we'll make sure we behave ourselves. Tell us a bit about, a couple of things happened here in town this week, too. By the way, we do have to make sure that we comply with that bylaw, and all these other signs that are out there need to come down.
Yeah, this week, the police department was busy, and the fire department. And yesterday, I want to thank everyone that was involved in an incident where it started with the dispatchers early on. I was listening to the radio, and they notified the police that the state police were chasing a vehicle on 495 North, just in case they got off the highway. And you could hear the cruisers head out right away to go to the areas near the off-ramps. And as you know, the vehicle ended up tipping over. And so it would involve police, fire, and dispatchers had to coordinate everything. And they ended up getting both suspects who ended up running from the vehicles. And so everyone coordinated extremely well on that, and I'd like to thank everyone for their efforts there.
That was on the end of Bay Road and Plain Street, right?
Right.
Yeah, Bay Road, Play Street, not too far from where I used to live.
I drove through there 5 minutes before that happened, so I'm so glad I wasn't involved in that mess.
The chief had one of the suspects on the roof of the house.
Right.
That's pretty funny. It wasn't funny.
Yeah.
But it was historical how it all played out.
Yep. And then today, unfortunate incident, as you probably saw, there had been some arson fires at Wheaton College recently, and coordination with our police, the fire department, state police, and the state fire marshal's office, they were able to arrest a suspect for all the 6 fires that were set in that one dorm. So want to thank them for all the work they did in those efforts.
I think people do some things sometimes, they don't realize how dangerous it can be for others. It's just scary stuff.
And just want to show you that RAVE is active. So for people in town, especially if you have a cell phone, if you have a hardline phone, your phone number is already in the system, but that'll only get you emergency alerts. So with the RAVE system, we can send out other alerts that people might be interested in that are not necessarily emergencies. So even if you have a landline, you can still go in here, click on the bar that is on the town website, go in here to alerts, and you can go in and register, and you can let them know what alerts you want to get. If you want to get alerts from the Board of Health, just emergency alerts, that's fine. But you can also let them know how you want the alerts, whether you want it over your landline, or if you also want to get emails, text messages on your cell phone, or call on your cell phone, you can enter that in too. So hopefully people in town will take advantage of that. And it's very important for people that have just cell phones and no landline to realize that they do have to register, because cell phones are not automatically inputted, just landline. So anyone that has a cell phone, they have to register.
That's on the town website.
That's on the town website.
And are those just Verizon?
No,
So the Cox or the,
Comcast
thank you.
and Verizon numbers
Okay.
were entered in.
Now, where was it on the town website?
Right there where you see in the red, Norton Alerts
Okay.
notification system.
Okay.
People can go on there and sign up.
So just punch in Town of Norton, and that screen should come up.
Yep.
Okay.
Just some other updates. As you know, the short-term rental legislation did pass in the State House this year. So that's for Airbnbs or short-term rentals. And we actually have to do nothing as far as this. I asked town council about it. It's just like the motel tax. If you already have the hotel motel tax, when these people register, it'll automatically, the money will be collected by the state and come to us. So we don't have to approve any bylaw or any change. Just wanted to give you, I know I had mentioned briefly when you were talking about updating the way we do payroll. We had a meeting next door this week at the police department. Our payroll system is Harper's, and the police department is the first department that we've been going to the online timesheet menu rather than have to do paper timesheets. And so they've been working on that probably 6-7 months now, the police department. And next Tuesday is the first test of taking that and then sending it to payroll in a dummy payroll to see how everything works and any kinks that have to be ironed out. And then we'll be looking at using that for all town departments. You know, what they have over there, because they're kind of unique in what they have, because they have all the different schedules and they have details. And an example is in the past, when they did a detail, they had to fill out a little slip and hand it in, and do one the next day, hand in a little slip, and then the secretary would have to enter in all this. And now, when they're out doing a detail, they can just put it in with their cell phone, and it automatically is in the system, and they can keep track of, like, if a company calls and says, you know, I shouldn't have this much of a bill, I didn't have details on that day, they can go in by company and print out a report for whatever time frame they want that will show every detail that was requested and who did it and how many hours and what it cost. And then the employees can also check on what they have used for sick time, what they've used for vacation, so they'll know that. And especially with the police, where they don't work regular schedules like everybody else, if your timesheet has to be in on Monday and you worked Saturday and you forgot to put in your timesheet, and you would have had to come in on Monday with your timesheet, but now you can just do it remotely and get it in. You don't have to come in. And so
The whole idea behind it is to come up on an electronic process that makes sense instead of us doing pen and paper. I don't want to question whether Harper can do it or not, but I wonder if we're shortchanging ourselves by not looking at other companies out there that offer the same service. Because schools may be different than town hall, may be different than fire department and police department. I mean, we've got to find someone that can do it all. I'm sure Harper's can do it, but there are some other reputable companies out there. I just don't know if we should just take the first one and say, let's go with it, because there may be companies out there that offer more services for the same price, and I just don't know if that's the right way to do it. That's my opinion, but, you know, I know we're using them already, but I just don't know if it's a perfect fit for everybody. And I just would encourage you to consider getting a couple of other companies in here just to make a presentation to find out what they offer before you go ahead and decide on one, see what everybody else is offering. Yes.
Mike, were you working with Dr. Baeta on this? Were you guys going to get together? And
yeah, we talked with Harper's about that to see what they're doing, so
okay.
we're going to coordinate with them. We're just trying to iron out any kinks in the system
But we can all agree that we're going to have one. We don't want to have schools
Right,
have
that's
one
what I was
payroll
getting at, yeah.
service and town have another and police have another. It's got to be one one company we're gonna be dealing with.
And I actually agree with what you said. I don't think it's such a bad idea to take a look at another company, because what do we have to lose? You know, we might as well do our due diligence before we make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's some different, I've used probably 2 or 3 different ones myself in the past. I'm not saying any better than the other. You know, I didn't get that much into detail, but the one thing that I do appreciate through this whole exercise is the fact that we now have documentation, we have electronic documentation that we can keep track of everything, and what's going on, and what we owe people, and what they have at vacation time, and sick time, and personal time, and what they've accrued, and, you know, the laws have changed. In Massachusetts now, on sick time, you accrue so much time per.
Hours of days of work.
Yeah, exactly. And these systems that are designed to fix that, they'll add to it as they go. You know, and I think it takes a lot of the pain out of having to keep track of all this stuff, you know? But I would encourage you to take a look at, first of all, you need to get school and everybody together, and then just kind of take a look at maybe another program to see what's out there, just to see, as a comparison, if they're offering you everything you need. And I just don't know I don't know anything about them, so I don't know if they offer it or not.
Just to give you an update, I know we had some brief discussion about it before. The difference between whether we have a pilot or taxation on a solar facility. So right now, one of the Hill Street sites did not agree to a pilot, so they're being taxed at $45,000 a year. The problem with taxation is they pay it, but they're going to appeal to the appellate tax board, and that's the benefit of having the pilot in place. And because they've been going the appellate tax board, and the appellate tax board has been saying that they believe that they should not be taxed. So we receive property taxes where there's a solar facility, plus we receive, if we have a pilot, the pilot payments. And if there isn't, like this one on Hill Street, they're taxed. But because of what's happening at the appellate tax board, there's been legislation filed. And this bill would clarify and limit the property tax exemption for solar and other renewable energy property to small renewable energy systems that generate not more than 125% of the energy needs of a residential property. So if you have solar on your house, on which it is located. So if you have solar on your house, then you're not going to pay taxes on the solar panels. But for larger systems, they'd be subject to taxation unless they have a pilot agreement in place. So hopefully, I talked to Steve Howard, and he said he would sign on to this legislation, so we'll have to keep following it and see how it progresses. Hopefully it does pass.
So the tax is based on land value and on personal property, on the equipment itself?
Yes.
And that's what we did on Hill Street.
On that Hill Street one, they're paying their tax on the property, and then they're paying $45,567 a year on the equipment.
And what did they say on that? Why are they appealing it?
Because in the past, the state has said that solar facilities are exempt from taxation. And the argument here is, well, we tax National Grid equipment, we tax Verizon equipment, we tax T-Mobile equipment, we tax Comcast equipment, so these facilities should also be taxed.
Well, at our last meeting, we talked about policy, the Board of Selectmen policy, that any new commercial solar facilities to come into Norton have to come before us first. Because I'll give you an example exactly why I brought it up 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know this at the time. On Plain Street, next to the LG Nurse, there's a new proposal by a developer to put in a rather large solar facility there also. And we're not aware of it. So we can't talk about pilots, and we can't talk to them about the fact that, based on our current rules and regulations, if you build a facility in town like that, you have to pay land taxes and you have to pay personal property taxes. And I just think by them circumventing us and making us aware so we can make others aware of what's going on, it just puts us between a rock and a hard spot. So my suggestion would be, I'm not saying we don't have the right to demand a pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes. We don't have the right to do that, but we do have the right to have them come before us and explain to us what their intentions are, so that we're clear, so if somebody comes up and asks us about it, we can talk about it too. And, going right to the planning board, and by right, they have the right to do it, and they can put it in, but what impact does it have on everything else that goes along with it? So it would be nice to know up front what's happening. I know in my very brief conversation with the planner yesterday, they're gonna move a couple of the power plants themselves to an area where it won't have an impact on the neighbors. I don't know if they're gonna do that or not, because I'm the only one that's seen it, no one else has seen it. So they're coming in 2 weeks before the planning board. Well, I had suggested to the town manager a couple of weeks ago that we need to have a policy where, as any new applications, this policy goes to the planning board, the ZBA, and the building commissioner, requesting that any new solar activity that's happening in town should be brought before the Board of Selectmen before they have any further discussion. So we have an idea of what they're trying to do. Hill Street, we didn't even know it was going up. I mean, Hill Street went up, and we weren't even aware it was there until I got a call from a guy saying, what the hell are they doing across the street from my house? And I started checking into it and found out they were actually putting in a solar facility there. So we got to get some kind of control. I'm not saying we have much control over it, but we need to get some kind of control over it. So I would like the town manager again to adopt, or we should just basically, the policies is strictly, if anyone comes before any of the town agencies, plannings, ZBA, or building commissioner, that they need to advise this group that they have to be put on our agenda to discuss exactly what their intentions are before they do anything else. Because this plan on Plain Street right now is on plan. It's all on paper. And like I said, I think it was yesterday or the day before that we heard briefly about it, I think, through an email, but I had no idea they had gone this far with it. And they're ready to go. So can we have a written policy and notify these other boards that we want this in the future to happen that way?
And they should have to notify assessors also.
Whatever we have to make sure we have our ducks lined up. Because these guys are making, I don't know what they're making, but I know they're making money. They wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money. So we need to find out what they're doing. Any questions on that policy? I think we need to get that going.
Just want to let you know, we're working, we'll come back at a future date on a mutual aid agreement for animal control with Easton, Mansfield, and Norton, so that if there's a situation where our animal control officer isn't available, just like we do with police and fire, one of the other towns will come over. And also, it's important now where so many power outages that if our facility goes down, right now we're replacing the generator over there, but if our facility went down with no electricity, you can't leave the animals in there. We could take them over to Mansfield's animal shelter. So I'd like to thank Brian Plant, who's been working with me on it, and we'll bring something back when it's we have something better in writing.
With all of our mutual agreements we're working on, with all of our, like the communication, trying to do a tri-town, the tri-town sewer program we have, why would we not look into a regional dog kennel? Why would we not do that? We probably have one of the newest around.
Right.
We're farming everything that everybody else. We're getting all the storage in Norton, but that's all we're getting. But the point of the matter is, if we have a facility that can handle it, why would we not try to come up with a regional plan to save some money?
Well,
this is one way. I mean,
Yep.
this is the first step. But come up with one building that we can all use. It just seems like it would be cost-effective for us to look into it. And maybe another town has something better than we do, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, what else you got?
Just to let you know, Keith and I were on a conference call with the engineers that are working on the streetlight conversion. They've done a great job, and they've plotted on the GIS system all the streetlights in town, and just trying to iron out now. There's a few that they don't know that they're on private property, like apartment complexes, things like that. So we're looking at their plan to let them know which ones are private, and then there's some that they're not sure where they fit in. So we're looking at that right now with them, and they've done a great job in developing the inventory.
What's the estimated cost savings for that once we get it going?
I don't have it with me. I have to get
Quite a
it.
bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of money. Okay, what else?
Just to remind everyone, April 6th is the townwide cleanup day, so I've alerted the superintendent of schools in case there's any students that need community hours. We hope to have a flyer soon that we can get out there and get on cable and the town website and get to the schools. So like to thank Cassie from Wheaton College, who's been working with us. She's does a great job, and they're very helpful. And once again, we'll have the day start over there, and they'll have some coffee and pastries or whatever for people before they head out. So I'd like to thank them for that. Just one last thing on the EPA cleanup, the Elm Street property. They're going to be removing the Porter Dam that's out there soon and buttoning up the area until the spring. And in the spring, they'll finish the 50-foot wide section that's left for additional bank. And then they haven't taken the stack down because the government shutdown slowed things down. So hopefully the government stays open now, and they get the funds to take that stack down.
You mentioned online permitting. Did you mention it?
What's that?
The online permitting?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Online permitting started Tuesday, so now people can file for their building permits right online, and we're able to access them. And people can access, if they go onto the system, they can access and look at, put in a street and see what permits have been issued for that street, and you'll be able to answer a lot of questions that people may have, like some guys start building 2 houses down from me, what's he building? They can just go online now, find that. And it works good here with all the departments are made aware immediately when a permit's filed with the building department. And so right away, the treasurer can check and make sure whoever it is up to date on their taxes. I noticed on the very first day I went in and there was a permit with a red dot on it, and so I checked the message, and the treasurer had put a hold on it because there were taxes owed, so it'll be good for our assessors, the tax collector, and then all the different boards that have to sign off.
Mr. Chairman, could we have the building inspector in because I know he had a lot to do with that department when he took it over. There was a lot of work to be done. Just to kind of get an update on what he's done. And I mean, this is a new program that he is responsible for putting in, right? So honestly, since he's come aboard, I haven't heard very many complaints about the building department, which wasn't really the case before he was here. So love to have him come back in and just tell us what he's done up to this point and what he's working on for the future.
Yeah, and he showed me the program yesterday. He can come in and show us up here. He can put it right up there and show us how it works and if we want to have access to it. But it's very informative. And what's really neat is it keeps track of all the cash. By the way, you don't have to come to town hall anymore. You can go online and do all this online. You can pay for it online too. It's all set up where you can just go in and do. You apply to replace a door or a window. You can actually go in and apply for it. It'll tell you how much you owe. You can pay for it. You don't have to come in here. They can actually go through the whole process without ever coming to town hall. So that's a pretty good thing, but if we could have Chris come in and,
He's coming February 21st.
okay, have him come in and show us. He can show us his new toy. But it's amazing what kind of information they can keep track of. And, by the way, everything is kept track of electronically. These 500 file cabinets we have up in the building inspector's office may be a thing of the past, where everything goes electronically into a file. So that's a good thing. We're out in the hallways with file cabinets now, so that'd be a good thing. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Selectmen report and mail.
I have one thing, Mr. Chairman. Mike, is there any way that you could get all the utility companies there again? Let's talk about these double poles. I know the new ones that are going up, I understand that part of it, they're getting down, but I'm concerned about the ones that have been up for 2.5 years that are still busted. And then along that fact, while they're here, I want to find out why can't they pitch in, or when the tree department goes out, shouldn't say the tree department, but when National Grid does their trimmings, and all the stuff that's below it, that's feeding through the lines, that doesn't get trimmed, it's still a hazard, and I don't know why. Pete did tell me because it's a separate union, and they gotta, join things together, but this should be a joint effort between all the utility companies to cut everything back. I just think it'll be neater and it'll be safer for us if we lose trees, that we're not gonna end up having problems in the future. Because it is getting to be a mess in between the wires.
Anything else? Mr. Bramwell?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Steele?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
What's up, Mr. Chairman?
We just want to remind everyone again that there has been a change of date on the spring annual town meeting, and it will be scheduled for Wednesday, May 15th, 2019, 7 p.m. at the Norton High School auditorium. Just a reminder on that. At our last meeting, we had asked the town manager to send a letter about our concerns about sidewalks at the new industrial park, the Blue Star Business Park. The Norton Board of Selectmen, acting as road commissioners, met with the developer of the Blue Star Business Park on Thursday, January 24, 2019. The developer indicated that due to wetland constraints, they will not be able to construct sidewalks on both sides of the road along Leonard Street. The board has requested that public safety be considered above all else. They would like the Conservation Commission to make whatever accommodations are necessary to assure that sidewalks are constructed along Leonard Street for the entire length of the project. So that letter went off, and thanks, Mr. Yunus, for getting that out there. Anything else on the Selectmen report? The warrants and minutes, entertain a motion to approve the payroll warrant PR 19-16 for the weekend in January 26, 2019, warrant dated January 31st, 2019, in the amount of $1,333,209.30.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. We have entertained a motion to approve warrant AP 19-31 dated January 31st, 2019, in the amount of $1,204,510.40.
So moved.
Second.
Is that a motion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
That's a motion. Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Chair entertain a motion to approve invoice warrant AP 19-32 dated February 7, 2019, in the amount of $496,805.26.
So moved.
Just want to see if you're-
Second. Moved, second.
I'm good with that, too.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Next meeting's agenda is February 21st. You have, Rose indicated you have one person coming in.
Building inspector will be in to
Building
talk
inspector.
about the stretch code and the online permitting.
Anything else? Oh, too early to get him in about double poles, but we can
I'll wait till whatever, March.
start
Well,
talking.
We gotta get them together, so whenever they can, it's just.
Anyone has anything else they'd like to add to the agenda, just let Mr. Yunus know. We have no exec session tonight? Anything else come before the board? Want to come on up? If it's, I'll warn you, if it's not on the agenda, I can't talk about it, but come on up.
I didn't know if it was citizen input.
Yeah, and I'll let you know if you can talk about it or not. If not, we'll put you on the next agenda.
My name's Chuck Gallagher. I'd just like to speak to you folks about the Bay Road project.
We'll have to put you on the next agenda. Well, actually, we had discussion about it, so go ahead.
I thought it was like.
We're beyond that, but go ahead.
I'm not used to this town's
Yeah, I-
process, so I apologize. I'm not much of a speaker, but I live at 201 Bay Road. I lived there for almost 4 years, and I saved up a long time to buy that house, my wife and I. And I grew up in Easton next door, so I'm familiar with the area. I know a few town employees. And as you know, a lot of us are pretty upset about this project that you have going on Bay Road. We feel very much so, and this, I don't mean this with any disrespect, but we feel very much that we were kept in the dark. This project, if I'm not mistaken, was in the works for close to a year, and not one person out of 161 houses was ever told about it, or asked to get involved, or come in and give us your opinion. Nothing, period. We found out because the planning board mandatorily by law had to send us the certified letters. Otherwise, we never would have known, because unlike 1920, 30, and 40, people don't socialize around libraries like they used to. They don't socialize around town halls like they used to. So the word doesn't get to us. I work 60 hours a week. I have 2 kids. Most of us that are in that area, most of us all in general, work a lot. So we never got the word of this project that was taking place. So I have a few questions that some of us are asking. The application for the zoning, it also includes the zoning bylaw change that was done, because we didn't know about that. And that's a big thing. This project, if I'm not mistaken, is also a fairly large project, correct? I mean, I think it's a pretty big project, 67 acres with 24,000 solar panels. So we're concerned because no one that I know of has asked for any type of long-term study. You have a guinea pig project with 161 houses around it, on wetlands, with wells, with solar panels that have lead built into the frames around them, with agricultural issues, with conservation issues, and not one long-term study's been done. This is the first one of its kind. I have no problem with projects going on for the first time. I understand that's how it is. I don't even mind solar. I like solar. It's a great idea. But not where these are, and not how it's being done. It appears to us as though the more important part of the aspect for the town is to go green. Well, for us, we don't want, as I've said in other meetings, we don't want another Woburn. We don't want to find out 10 years from now that the lead from the frames sunk into the soil and into our wells somehow. And we don't want to find out that our kids have leukemia or cancer like Woburn. It's very unnerving that this was pushed so quickly, and I realize they did by the letter of the law and they did that, but I think that the board has an obligation stronger than that to us, for our safety, for our kids' safety, and you didn't do that. And now that we feel as though this is being shoved down our throat.
And you do understand we're not required to do so.
That's what I just said.
We did what we were.
I understood you went by the letter of the law, but,
Wait a minute, let me finish.
Okay.
Town manager, the town, we submitted an article. Town meeting approved it, not us. Town meeting approved it. And it was pretty much unanimous. I know that the abutters were there and they had some concerns about it.
yep,
But we're here today talking about this, not because of what we did here in town. We're here talking about it because our legislators decided to work with the cranberry growers and come up with a plan where their businesses are going pretty much south, because, wait a minute, let me finish. And they are trying to create another way to create some income. If you'd asked me 5 years ago that they'd be putting anything on a cranberry bog, I would have laughed at you. You know, that possibility never occurred to me personally. But I want to stress the fact that we have done everything legally, and we've done everything as upfront as we possibly can. You know, the legal notification, in my opinion, probably should have gone out much sooner than it did, but it didn't. But by law, that's all they're required to do.
I appreciate that. But again, that's where I think that you were obligated to go a step further. This is gonna cost us, our real estate is gonna, equivalently gonna go down $8.5 million. That's conservatively. We've had people come in and give values, have the houses assessed before and after cranberry bugs.
Writing?
Sure, we got it for you. One of the neighbors had one done in their house.
Yeah, I'd like to-
They said they were gonna lose $100,000 on the house. Now, I cut that in half by 160 neighbors, and it came out to $8.5 million.
Well, when you're saying 160 neighbors, we were required to notify 160 neighbors, but the impact of this project is not on 160 neighbors. It's on the impact, is on the people within the area of Bay Road, Bailey Lane, that area, even the people in the eastern. And I think the new subdivision further down on the left, they've got to be impacted by it too. So those are that's the crust of the impact.
Okay.
Your environmental concerns, I believe are being addressed by the planning board. If not, you guys need to continue
We're
to
trying, yes.
push it, and make sure we have all our ducks lined up for that stuff. But, overall, it's, like I was just talking about, we've got one going at the top of my hill from where I live. We have a solar farm going in. We never would have known about it if I hadn't stumbled over the plans upstairs.
Now you know how we feel, right?
Yeah, and I get
I mean,
it.
really.
And I'm involved. I mean, I'm here, and I get it.
Well, can I make a point on something you just said a minute ago about the cranberry? When you had said that the cranberry bogs aren't doing very well, if I'm not mistaken, these cranberry bogs are organic, and they are doing well. The other cranberry bogs may not be. Also, on top of that, this process of solar panels going on top of bogs and other stuff, that was intended for the farmers that are struggling, right? My understanding is that the gentleman that owns these bogs wasn't struggling because he went to organic and the troubles aren't there like the other ones are having. On top of that, he's selling it to them. So it's not even for the best interest of the farmer. The people that are buying them are selling them so they can have the solar panels.
My understanding, and I haven't been to these meetings, but my understanding is that they're going to be farming that out to someone else to control.
Correct,
Some of them don't
but still, it's
do
the
it.
intent of the law that was put forward, to do this for farmers, for struggling farmers.
Yeah.
It's great it's for the mom and dad that have, get up 5 in the morning every day and struggle on their farm. Not for a solar company that wants to come in and buy them out and have their solar going. And that's one point.
On the organic application, and I'm asking because for years, we were fighting with Makepeace, I think it was back in those days.
The chemicals?
The chemicals they were using on those bogs were flowing down the river, going into Winnicott. And the reason why we had such an infestation of weeds was because of all the chemicals being used on the cranberry bogs. And if you tell me it's organic, I'm hopeful that some of that
Has weaned off.
has weeded
Oh, I
off.
agree.
And
I
I'm
think
hoping
organic's
they're not
great.
using the chemicals they used to use, because those were rather invasive further down we were having to deal with.
Did the town have to approve that process, or the state approves it and they just get away with
I don't
it?
know who approved it, but it was done.
Because I would think the chemicals could be pretty dangerous as well.
Yeah, no, that was a big issue for a number of years.
I think, again, I'm not very good at talking publicly, but
Well, you're doing well.
we're very involved in this, and
Yes.
we're not going away.
Sure.
And we're against it the way it's been brought forward to us. We've caught this company with, a lot of what they say is, well, we don't know, or we believe, or we think.
Yeah.
And they've had, some of the paperwork they brought, some of the plans they brought in are outdated. They have outdated maps that don't have houses on it that are there. They didn't have property that was sold a year ago, sectioned off right. I just don't think that this company is I haven't got a whole lot of confidence. And plus, their past practice is they've been denied by several other communities, if I'm not mistaken. I know they were definitely denied in Dartmouth. And again, I work 60 hours a week. I don't get to go and do as much research as I'd like to. But so the big thing is the way this was brought forward to us, we're extremely upset about. We have very little confidence in the town right now in the way this was brought forward to us. Because a good neighbor, and I've been in a community for decades now, a good neighbor says, hey, we're building a supermarket over here. Let's talk to the neighbors, let them know about it, make sure that we're friendly with them if there's any concerns. And you work as a team when something like that's going through. Granted, we don't have control over everything. That was never done. These people said at the meeting the other night, the planning board, that they talked to neighbors. Everybody at that planning board stood up and said, they never talked to us. So that's questionable. He spoke to maybe the Polilios that own the sand and gravel there, but he didn't go door to door talking to people. So he misled people there as well. There's been a lot of that going on throughout this whole process. And again, the other part of it, and the strongest for myself, I don't like the way solar panels look, but I understand people have the right to do what they want on their property, and I respect that. But there's been no long-term studies to protect us. and you're supposed to be protecting us. $200,000 a year, is it really worth jeopardizing the livelihood of children that live 100 feet away from where these solar panels are going to be? So we really feel as though our interest was not represented through this process and still isn't.
Well, you're working with the process now is in the planning board, with the planning.
I understand that,
And
but you
they're
folks,
they're elected officials.
Yep.
And they have the right to demand any kind of background information that you guys bring up. If there's certain conditions that you're worried about as far as contamination and all that, you have the right to demand that, and you should.
we have been asking for long, but
And have them do that type of research to make sure there's not a problem.
the problem is, short-term, for every short-term study that they've shown, we've found one that contradicts it. And so this is a company, they're obviously trying to make money, that's great, we should all be able to do that, but they're doing it themselves. A third party should be involved. It shouldn't be the people that are out there trying to make money, giving you their studies, giving you their findings, because it's not neutral. It should be a third party outside, at their expense, not yours or ours, because they're the ones trying to make millions.
Well, we do that.
Okay, again, I'm talking about this particular project.
And we're doing, we can do that, and they can do that. They can do a peer assessment, and they can hire an engineering firm, right?
They have.
They have an engineering firm to give them the information that could contradict what the developer's doing. And once we hire that engineer, they don't work, they pay them. The developer pays them, but they work for us, and they tell us what their concerns are. And if they've already if they're in that process, that's a good thing, because sometimes they come back with information that we're not aware of. The other guy, like you say, is telling them. So we have a checks and balance type of thing that does work out well. Our obligation, this board's obligation, is to put the article in the warrant, bring it to town meeting, and let the people vote. Once it's beyond that, and I'm not taking away the responsibility.
It's their problem now.
I'm not taking, we are responsible, there's no question about it. But once it hits the planning board, we can't tell them what to do either. They're an elected board, they pretty much have to follow the laws and rules and regulations, based on what information they get. It's always good to be suspicious. You need to have that information.
I am suspicious. I'm also suspicious because this is a rush job, and they've publicly said this is a rush job, to the point where the meetings were moved back to accommodate them. The special town meeting, if I'm not mistaken, from the month
Yeah, there was a
prior,
reason for that,
was
right?
moved back 2 weeks to accommodate the solar
We
company.
did that, and Mr. Eunice, tell us why we did that.
When the developer came to you, he said that in order to get into the national grid queue that was filling up fast, he needed to have all his permits in place sooner, than waiting till May, so he asked if he could have the special in January.
Okay. We were told that in order for the process to work, we had to move it back in order to allow them the process to go through the planning board stages to find out how it works. The reason why we did it. I know you don't want to hear about the $200,000 a year, and I get that. But to a board that has been getting our butts kicked for the past 10, 15 years about how we don't have any creative way of raising additional funds for the town. And it's unfortunate, it has to be sometimes on other people's backs. I get that. If that would be in my backyard, I'm sure I'd be standing there next year. And there's no question about it. But what's happening on Plain Street is probably a good example of why we have to be proactive. Because now we've got another solar development coming to town that could, in fact, build on a piece of land that is forested. It's totally forested. They're going to cut all the trees down next to a piece of property we own, that's a school, that already has wetland problems to begin with. They have by right, they can come in, they can do that. They can cut down all the trees. They can do whatever they want to do. All we can charge them for is the land value, the taxes on the land value. We can't get a pilot out of them because they're not required by law to do so. And then they can come back and challenge us once they build it and say, well, we don't want to pay for the infrastructure we put on top of it. That's why we have to do certain things a certain way. And I'm not making excuses, but
I understand the need for money, trust me.
I'm very upset about even the one on Plain Street and how that's being developed. And Hill Street's a whole different story. That one was up, and we didn't even know what was going on with that one.
I understand, and I expect 200,000 because I'm a taxpayer. My taxes have gone up 17% since I moved here.
Yeah.
So they've gone up 17%, and now with these bogs coming in, the value of my house is going to be going down. So I'm screwed. But anyhow, and I lost my train of thought because you went on.
I'm sorry about that.
It's just, long-term studies. Why can't we demand they do a long-term study? If it takes them a few years longer, I'm sorry. They originally wanted these panels to be 50 feet from your property line. That could be 100 feet from a kid's bedroom. With some of these houses, some of these newer houses that were put up recently, it's ridiculous.
I don't think the long-term study is too much to ask for, because we have a number of solar farms around that have been around a while.
But that have to be specific to what we're going to be dealing with here. That have to be.
Matter, contamination, no matter what kind of land you're using, whether it will be a cranberry bog or an old sand pit or on top of our landfill that we have here in Norton, we put it on the landfill years ago. You know, that information should be available, that if there's any contamination in the ground, we should be able to find that out. And there's got to be some kind of studies. This is not new technology. I'm sure they're updating it as they do it, but it's not new technology. Be curious to find out if there were any long-range or long-term problems. You think we would have heard about them by now. And they've been out there for years.
Possibly, but they haven't had 24,000 panels with lead in them.
Well, the other panels have to have lead in them. These can't be.
No, I'm sorry, not the panels, the base that they're built into.
Either way, there's got to be others that have used that technology.
I agree.
And again, I would stress to you that you need to let the planning board know that they need to find out get that information, that they can get it.
So, I mean, I'll probably be back with more questions as I gather my
Okay.
thoughts in the next few days. But we really want to let you know that we're really, really, really upset
know
with the
that.
process.
We know that.
And, yeah, and.
We started on,
You took
just so
the
you
time.
know, we started on November 15th. Public discussion about this project was started here on November 15th.
Okay, I respect that.
And we did talk about it a number of times here at our meetings. You know, we obviously had to allow the article to be put on the warrant. We had to call for the special town meeting. We've had a lot of conversation about it. In today's world, like you say, you're working 60 hours a week. The newspapers don't give you the information you need anymore. Cable access does if you have the time to sit there and listen to it. But these are recorded and they're played back a number of times. We did follow the guidelines as far as notification.
Even if you have the people that are trying to build the solar company, somebody comes in and wants to build a furniture store, whatever it is, anything, let them pay for it. They have to notify the abutters as soon as they submit any paperwork of their interest, that they're going to build. They should have to notify anybody that abuts that property in writing what their intentions are. It doesn't cost the town a penny. But then the people are informed and they know and they have a chance to look into it themselves.
That notification you received was paid for by the developer. We didn't pay for it. Problem with the process is it gets to that stage where they've submitted all their forms, everything's already there, and then they say, okay, now we need to notify the abutters. And we only have to give them 7 days' notice of the first public hearing we're going to have.
Why can't the town change it? You're changing policies
State law.
for other things.
State law.
Have a bylaw passed. Have a bylaw passed that says, if you submit any paper with intent to build,
We can't circumvent state law. It's regulated by state law. We can't say, we don't like the state law, we're going to do it this way. If we didn't like that, we would have said, no solar panels on cranberry bogs. Well, we can't, they have the right to do it.
I know they do.
And we have to be careful, because if we say, let's say we didn't adopt that bylaw, who's to say they wouldn't go to the state and say, look, you passed this bylaw, it's allowed, Norton's not allowing us, we could be forced to do it without any compensation. So we have to be careful about how we approach this too. And overall, I think the process stinks, and I agree with you on that, as far as the notification part of it. But it's all within state laws that we have to comply with. There's things we're talking about here tonight that I don't like, that I want to change, and I can't change it. And one is insisting that a pilot be part of a program. And I'm being told by our town council, as much as I want to do that, we can't do that. We can't force them to do it.
why didn't you folks require them to do a long-term study before even doing the
It's not our
bylaw?
job. It's not within our jurisdiction. That's the planning board.
So, well,
No, our part of the job was to get a presentation, move it forward to town meeting. Once it gets beyond that, you have the planning board, and then you have the zoning board of appeals. You have a couple other different processes you can go through. The peer review is going to be very important. You want to make sure you ask a lot of questions that we can get that kind of information back on the peer review side of it. So some of your concerns may be addressed that way. But it's, I get it. And it's unfortunate that we don't have to do that. If for any other reason, in my opinion, it's only strictly my opinion, it's not the opinion of this board, if I were putting up that development, I would have knocked on every single door of every house I could see, and I would have had a conversation. And I'm not sure if we were told that or not, I don't remember, to be honest with you, but that would be at least the one courteous thing to do. Not to say that you would not like it, because you're not gonna like it.
No, of course not, but we'd have time to prepare, to learn about it, and to have them do a long-term study. We don't, usually a place, say, they'll come in, say it's Roach Brothers, whoever, and they'll plan, they're gonna meet with people and say, well, what we can do to make you happy? Because it makes their job easier, there's less of a battle for them, and they can get in there good with the people around them. And that's not what they did here. And we saw them being escorted through the process. Why is there a letter to the Attorney General to speed it up for them? That was done for them, the town meeting, special meeting was moved back for them. All was being done for them, but nothing was being done for us. And our houses are gonna be losing, I think it was 10% value at least.
And again, I haven't seen any documentation to prove
We'll get that for you.
And you could
But
probably.
it should have been common knowledge. If you were buying a house and you looked out the back window and you saw cranberry bog, you said, oh, it's beautiful. But if you walk into a backyard, you have a house you want, thinking about buying, and you see nothing but 24,000 solar panels, you're gonna turn around and get the heck out of that house. Anybody with half a brain would.
I built my own house, and I built it next to Wheaton College, and I perfectly knew what was gonna happen over there, because it's a college, they were there before me. I have a facility right in my backyard, there's a playing field. I have one of their new playing fields in my backyard. I had no say in it, nothing I could say or do by law that I could have said or done. They've been a good neighbor, and they try to keep the buffer up the best they can, but I hear it. It's out there, sometimes I see the lights, it's just the way it is. We're controlled by laws, and as much as we think we like to do certain things sometimes, we're not allowed to do it. That's what I'm trying to stress to you.
Okay.
And your only opportunity at this point is to continue working with the planning board.
We're going to.
Yeah, do that, and continue to ask your questions.
Why did you send a letter to the Attorney General's office, ask them to expedite it? Why did the town do that? The bylaw.
They came to us and said, we need to expedite it because the funds that they needed in order to build it were gonna dry up, right?
In order to get into the national grid.
That I understand, and I understand, but again, I'm boggled as to why you'd go over backward, no, I'm not saying writing a letter going over backwards, but you go out of your way to help them, but you didn't go out of your way to help us.
It's all about,
I know you did what the law says.
and it's all about the best interest of the community.
I understand
I
that
can
too.
tell you many times I vote for things I don't agree with, but if it's in the best interest of the community, we are a cash-strapped community.
I understand
You
that.
know that, you've lived here. We've been through numerous overrides, attempts that have failed. We are constantly in the hot seat that we aren't doing anything creative in order to increase finances in the town. When something like this came forward, we saw it obviously as a gain, a financial gain. The Blue Ridge we just talked about earlier, the new industrial park, we've taken a lot of heat over that. That's going to create millions of dollars in revenue, but it does have an impact on the neighborhood that's behind it, beside it, and across the street from it. And we recognize that. But as a community as a whole, we pushed it because we knew it was in our best interest to generate that additional revenue for the town. Doesn't mean we like it, but we think it's probably the best thing we can do for the town. So it's not, we're not trying to pit the community against neighborhood or any of that stuff, but unfortunately, it's just the way our government works, the way our town works. And it's unfortunate we can't notify people in advance. If I found out, I probably found out about this project just before we had our first meeting. It was within a couple of weeks, so I didn't have that much advance notice about what was going on either.
Well, with the solar company?
Yeah.
When did you first meet with them? 2 weeks?
I don't care who was talking to them, we were probably not much aware of it, much before you guys became aware of it.
Well, he had said the solar, I think it was Adam said they've been involved doing this for 9 months
He may have been
No,
talking
us.
to,
in the town.
he may have been talking to the town manager, he may have been talking to the planner, he may have been talking to the building inspector, but that doesn't mean that we were aware of it.
You guys don't talk about this stuff?
This-
A multi-million
We
dollar?
have conversations all the time about, we hire a professional town manager to do most of our responsibility, our jobs. The town charter pretty much took all that away from us years ago. So he'll go out and he'll explore things like the Hill Street project, the solar farm on the Hill Street. he pretty much had that wrap before he came to us and said, look, we got this great proposal, would you consider adopting it? And that's where we are here. You know, even though he's talking, we have people talking in this town every day of the week. Most of it doesn't come to fruition. It doesn't happen.
So you're doing most of the work with the solar company?
So what'll happen is people will come in,
I'm talking about this specific one, not,
right?
okay.
Right? So similar to him, people will come in and have a discussion about something, but you don't know if it's moving forward. So until he came in November, nothing was moving forward on it.
Do you think that the fact that it's in the agreement that he's selling the property, is this sort of like, takes out the intention of that law that was passed to have the solar work done? Just because he says he's gonna have an operation, he's not
That's something we can't answer. That's a legal
What was-
opinion. We're not lawyers. We don't pretend to be. We really don't. We're like you guys. We don't know, but I believe you guys have hired, or someone has hired an attorney down
Yep,
there. It's
the
a
group
very
did,
good
yeah.
question to ask. But, you know, I know the owner of the property now. I know who he is. And I guess I'm not surprised about the way this process is working. But I think under the new rules and regulations, right, Mike? They have to, if they put up the solar farm, they still have to, farm the cranberry bog.
They do, but it doesn't say how much they have to produce, and they're the ones that are gonna be reporting to the state. He could have 5 cranberries and say he's got 5 bogs going. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna do that, but it could easily be done. There's no oversight of it except for themselves.
I do, to your point, we have state representatives, senators that voted this new law into place. We weren't asked. It came down to the pipe that roughly 6 months ago, they adopted this new law, allowing the cranberry growers to build on these properties. We might have had a different opinion. We didn't have an option on it. It's there. You know, it's there now. We have to deal with it. And we have to take into consideration the best of what we can do for the town as a whole. And unfortunately, when someone comes along and starts throwing, I'll pay the land value taxes and I'll throw 200 grand a year on top of it, we have to look at it that way.
I understand the money's what's,
Do it.
but I understand money's what's pushing this. So from that point of view, all of us can be losing money. You have residents in the town that have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to live in this community with our kids that might have to sell their houses, that are losing thousands of dollars on the value of our house, or could, potentially.
Well, that's the part of it we don't, and again, that's something you need to talk to the planning board about, is getting the research. It's not the first project. I'm told there were other projects on bogs in southeastern Massachusetts. So we're gonna find out where they are, find out what the impact was environmentally and financially. And that's the kind of questions that have to be asked to the planning board. They have to do it, you know, and find out about it. Carver, I understand, has a brand-new facility down there. I haven't seen it, I haven't heard anything about it,
They're low panels to the ground,
but they're still.
and they were not
panels, they're
producing
still
for
on a
3
cranberry
years.
bog. It doesn't matter what they are, they're still, the same concept is still there. And if they're gonna ooze some kind of contaminant, it doesn't matter I have solar panels on my roof that create hot water. I've had them there for 15 years. I've never had a problem. There's nothing in it, really. It's just a fluid that runs through and pumps. I've never once been concerned about what's coming out of them because they're sealed. It's a sealed unit, and it's been there forever, and I've never done a thing to it. I never have to. So in the case of Carver, if it has been done, and it has, even if it's a low impact, which in my opinion, that's gonna kill the plants, because there's no way to get to the sun if you're burying the plants under panels, but they've gotta have some research information down there, and that's the kind of stuff that you guys should be asking for.
It's also not in a residential neighborhood, from what I'm told.
Well, I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure it is.
If this wasn't in a residential neighborhood, I'd be 100% behind it. I think solar is great. And most of the people that are involved in our group, they do too. Some people even wanted to get solar panels on their houses. They've looked into it. It wasn't cost effective for them, but it's not like we're against solar. We're not against the town going green. We're against this project being, basically, as we feel, shoved down our throat. And we're not gonna just sit back and,
I get it.
so,
Mrs. Steele?
I'm sorry.
Just a couple comments. So I totally get where you're coming from, understand your frustrations. I'm now looking at a solar farm across the street from my neighborhood. But the problem is, there's a lot of things being said tonight about state laws and what can be done. The bottom line is really, this board really doesn't have any final say on any projects that come before the town. So there have been projects that this board has thought had merit in the town, and it didn't go through planning board, it got vetoed out, and vice versa. So I know that your group is pretty angry at the Board of Selectmen and the way the town meeting was done. Just want to point out one thing. With or without that town meeting, this project was going through. That town meeting was just for financial, to get the pilot going. The project itself was going through anyways, we're just trying to manage it. So I guess my message to you guys would be tonight, stop the energy being mad at us. We are here to help you. We can weigh in on things, but what you really need to do is focus on this project and how you can manage it for the proper outcome by working with the planning board. Because we really don't have any say in the outcome of this project or any other project. We can just weigh in on our opinion. When we weigh in on our opinion, we're not really educated as the planning board is on this stuff. We're looking as a town as a whole, we can get more money into it. The planning board is the one that's gonna, or the ZBA, they're the ones that are gonna get into the nitpicky. Is this good for the neighbors? Have the studies been done? Have the traffic studies been done? I asked a question earlier. I don't know what a traffic study is, but I know it has to be done. The planning board will follow up with that 40B development. So I guess my message to you guys tonight is, you're fighting for something that you believe in, that you should believe in. I understand your frustrations. You stay informed, to keep the planning board on their toes. If we can help, if there's something going on, definitely come back to us. We're not against giving our opinion on things. So that's one point. And the other point I want to say is, you do make a very good point about this project, and there have been other projects that come into residential neighborhoods that either the residents or this board kind of found out at the last minute because, the planning board is an elected board. There's no obligation. There's not a lot of interaction between our boards unless we're working together on something. So, I know it's a state law that there's a time frame where the butters have to be notified. I don't know why we couldn't ask the planning board that when there are projects coming into a neighborhood that's going to affect residents, why couldn't we just have a courtesy of letting those residents know? We could just ask the companies, this is a big project, we have residents, let them know that this is coming in. I certainly would have liked to know about the project at the top of my street. These guys would have liked to know 9 months ago when the planning board heard. I know it's not a state law, but, you are right. This is a big project in your neighborhood. Leonard Street was a big project down there. Hill Street was a big...
Which they did, by the way, they did go out and talk to them.
Did they go early? Yeah, so, it depends on the company that you're dealing with. But we can't guarantee it, but I don't know why we couldn't just ask the planning board if they could make that a policy like we asked tonight, that any solar farms come before our board. That's not a rule, that's not a law, that's nothing we can impose. We're asking for that courtesy. I think we could probably ask the same courtesy of the planning board.
But as a policy of this board, if they come to us first, what's the first thing we're gonna say? You need to go out and talk to the neighbors. Right?
No, yeah,
We're
but
gonna-
I'm saying the planning board hears about these projects before
What
we
we
do.
do.
This is beyond, I'm talking about the solar, but beyond that, you're right. I mean, the planning board should probably,
Yeah,
one of the first questions should be, are you notifying, have you had any conversation with the abutters?
So let me ask you this, what is it, you just said this is gonna happen no matter what. Why do you say it's gonna happen no matter, why do you say we can't stop this?
oh, no, I'm not saying you
I'll
can't
tell you
stop
what,
it. I'm just saying the process would have started.
Oh.
I don't know whether you can stop
The
it.
project where you live, Chuck, it's been granted by Governor Baker to push this. And once he says it's okay, that's where it's gonna go. They're pushing the farmers to do this. I guarantee you'd never be able to stop it under his jurisdiction.
Well, we're gonna try.
Yeah, I know, I'm just
I've got,
saying, that's
I
what
got a
was told today.
one-year-old and a 3-year-old.
I was
and-
told that today, and I was really shocked by it, but
And I just want to, I haven't been around much lately. I was here for the presentation, and one thing that does concern me that you mentioned was, I got the impression that they had spoken to the abutters. I can't swear to it because,
I don't remember.
I think that company made a lot of impressions that were off color.
right, so I mean,
That's what I'm finding with our experience with them and what we heard, what the conversations we had at meetings.
it was my impression that they had spoken with the abutters, people in the neighborhood, and at the time, there was no opposition that we knew of, but we didn't realize, I mean, personally, and I can't even swear to it, I'm just thinking back because I haven't been here that much lately, but.
I'm sure he spoke to Palilios, because he has an arrangement with them now with where the trees and stuff like that planted, be going partly in where their property is and so on and so forth. They've lost money as well. They had people that walked out of a deal that they were buying a house. I mean, so it's gonna affect a lot of people financially, a lot of ways.
But you have to push for the buffer zones. In fact, I was talking to the planner yesterday, I said to him, have you put aside money in case there's any future issues, you know, if they need some kind of a buffer or anything like that. And I asked him to consider asking the planning board to put a separate account aside, so that if you had an issue in the future and need to have shrubbery put up or a fence or whatever, there'd be money there that we could draw on, like a bond type of thing.
I think they need bond for a few things.
Yeah, and that's fine. The other thing that you want to push is, and I'm not trying to give you advice, but if you're worried about the value of your house, they can put aside money to help subsidize the value of your house if you try to sell it. And so, let's say your house is worth 500 grand, and we're assessing it 500 grand, and you try to get 550, and you end up paying 450. There should be some kind of an account there that, because of the if it does diminish in value, that you guys can tap into that and have that available.
We're looking at that as an afterthought. We don't even want to think about that right now, because we don't want this project to go forward.
I know.
And we're gonna do everything we can to try to,
We've been here and done this. I'm going to tell you, at this point, I'm not sure if you can stop it,
well,
but you need to get as many, say it does stop, that's fine. But the only way you can get any control is financially. We've done this with 40Bs in the past, these comprehensive permits we talk about. We try to put as many restrictions in place, and to a certain point where it doesn't become feasible to build it because it becomes too expensive. I'm not saying you can do that, but I am saying that you should ask for anything at this point, with the intention of not allowing it to build, but if it does happen, you want to have your cards in place. You want to have everything there that you want to have.
that's what we're in the process of working on now.
That's what you got to do.
Okay, I'm gonna let other people speak, because I've taken enough time tonight, but I do hope, I probably will be back down the road to get some
Yeah, if
information.
you guys want to come in, you'll have to give us a call. And
Let you know ahead of time?
We'll have to get you on the agenda.
How far ahead of time do you need us to let you know?
We need a couple of days.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Anyone else?
Just on what Mary was saying, people can go on to the town website and they can sign up for alerts on the town website. So if they want to, every time the planning board posts an agenda, they want to get that agenda, they'd get notification, or selectmen or whatever, conservation, they can pick and they can sign up and automatically will get alerted anytime.
Yeah, in my, actually, for tonight's meeting, somebody who I happened to be sitting next to got our agenda before I did, so it works. Yeah.
I mean, I just think it would be in the best interest of the developer to try to be a good neighbor with all the people that are there right now and, and listen to their concerns and come up with their things they're asking about for long-term, and instead of just, well, I'm not sure or whatever. I mean, it's a big project for everybody to have to deal with. So the best they can to try to take care of their neighbors and make sure that they got all their ducks in a row, the better off everybody will be.
Well, yeah, and I think that we've been fortunate with Al Nilam and with the meatball folks, I forget what their name is.
Condyne?
Yeah, or in Condyne as well, where they
Oh.
did a good job with all of this. But, unfortunately, that's predominantly out of our control. We can't force them to do it, and they can do the legal notifications. But hopefully, we'll get more of the folks that have been good.
Okay. Anything else come before the board?
Roll aids.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
All right.
We're adjourned.